god, I can't wait to see the whistling sound in the kitchen. Teddy bear tea rooms. Are the shrapnel marks. Wow.
It all started the weekend before James was turning 40. I had a number of surprises planned for him that inspired some of that weekend's activities, unbeknownst to him. But first I had to get out into the garden and plant up my spring bulbs. It wasn't ideal that both tulips and daffodils hadn't made it out of the outhouse yet. But I had made a January sowing last year work, so I hoped for some similar luck in 2025. It was the first time we were really getting out in the garden this year, and it was as refreshing as I remember from last. The icy air entering the lungs as if to blow the cobwebs away and remind us that we're starting afresh and new beginnings are on their way. And while pottering, I was attacked at least 5 times by our climbing rose as we attempt to experiment growing it into the apple tree for our hopefully blooming marvellous floral archway to add some interest to that walkway in June.
You need to do that properly or not do it at all.
Yeah.
Because that is, I think it's ruined a couple of jumpers already for me, but also it's now just caught me in the groin. I think it could look really pretty when it flowers, but
There is a lot to do.
yes, there is. I just cut out all that 3-cornered leaf that has just taken over the world. It was cute for a while, but now it's insane. It's going to smother all my other stuff. I've shown such a self-restraint with this, but this is actually our new kettle. I didn't actually believe that we could have a kettle like this because it's actually a stovetop kettle. I love the idea of that. There's something very nostalgic and romantic about having a kettle on the hob, but we have an electric hob. So I just assumed it would not be possible. We need a new kettle. We've been saying that for a while for a multitude of reasons. One being that sometimes it doesn't turn itself off. And that scared us a few times when we've left it because it's filled the whole kitchen with steam. And I found this one, and it's a Le Creuset stovetop kettle that works on electric hobs. It's a beautiful, I think, kind of like reddy colour. And it was half price, down from about £120 to about £66. So I swung it past James, who I thought would tell me no, but he actually agreed to it also. And interestingly, a few days after I bought it, I went back to John Lewis just to look at the colour of the kettle again, and it had gone up by like £20. It was only reduced to £88, so part of me wonders whether it was a mistake that they sold it for 66, but I'm not complaining. think it's going to look so good against the blue in our kitchen. We've got a really dark blue. It's actually Ferro and Ball railings. And I think this will look so great. We don't have any other kind of pop of colour in there. What a gorgeous colour. Oh my god, I can't wait to see like the steam and condensation kind of shooting out of this, and like the whistling sound in the kitchen.
It's a very good present, this.
I know, I was saying to my mum and dad that you thought that. My mum said she squealed when she saw you using it. Sunday felt much like an old-fashioned English Sunday. James lit the fire while in between gardening we stopped for hot tea and jam donuts, apple and raspberry, while watching The Railway Children, one of my favourite films from my childhood, inspired as much by the steam train I saw depart from an old station locally the Saturday morning as the weekend I had planned for James, with a trip to the north of England to the National Railway Museum. And later that day, I set up one of our favourite Sunday traditions, Sunday tea, just like our grandparents would have had many moons ago. But for a simple Sunday supper, it wasn't without its mishaps.
James, I just sliced my finger. Ow.
Let's take a look. You're always doing this.
It's a bit deep, but I don't think it's too deep.
Let me grab.
But it's bleeding.
It's alright, calm down.
Thankfully, it didn't result in a trip to A&E.
Scotch eggs look good. What was that?
What?
Met your mate, Mum. Scott. Scott who? Scotch egg. What was his name? Scotch egg.
Where was that from?
Do you remember that? And it was the guy's face presenting like a Scotch egg. Scotch egg.
What was that from though?
I don't know.
And later that week, we were finally on our way. James's first surprise was a trip to the medieval walled English city of York. We made it just in time for a winter superstorm, with red weather warnings for wind throughout much of the north of the UK. But just like the anticipated snow from a few weeks ago, it never really met expectations where we were, thankfully. I'd booked us in for 2 nights in a pair of semi-detached Georgian townhouses that had been made into one hotel. James loves the idea of Georgian homes, so it seemed the perfect fit when I stumbled upon it. After breakfast, we bundled up and out, grabbing coffee on the way from an adorable and much esteemed bakery from across the way, and headed to the National Railway Museum. James's grandfather and great-grandfather were train drivers, and so he's always loved old steam trains.
Would go for the steam train, and then James said the coal would live over there. So is it like a big coal chute that they would drop into? Ah.
Yeah, so they would fill that up, and then that's when you'd shove it from. So.
Wow. It's just amazing, all the different like valves and levers. Like I bet train driving now is nothing like that, but it's like one lever or something. Yeah. Like
So, yeah.
Admiring the old carriages, we moved through history, found trains made near to our home at a similar time as our Victorian home would have been built, lingered on old furnishings in 1800s carriages that went on to become summer houses at people's homes, and even saw a train that still bore shrapnel marks from the Second World War.
School's class would have also been at the Southern train. I wouldn't be surprised if Ventnor was off of a train on the Isle of Wight.
As someone that's only interest in old trains is rewatching The Railway Children, I would highly recommend. of the shrapnel marks. Wow. That's insane. That is nuts. That's amazing that that's like a similar age to our house, and actually built not that far from our house either. He looks like he was running for a train then, down the platform. So possibly he could have driven one. I love the little lights.
But of course, what I loved the most was their cabinets and cabinets full of crockery. As a knick-knack collector myself, much to James's dismay, this was my favourite part of the exhibition, and I was absolutely in my element.
Teddy bear tea rooms. The old lamp. Wow. Oh, it's set up like a big old feast.
That's the sort of house that Matthew Crawley probably would have lived in. And they said, oh, he's only a minute.
He's only... Well, one hopes so.
And after spending the afternoon meandering through the old streets of York and admiring the history of other people's homes, we headed back to the hotel before dinner and stocked up on some sweet treats from their ever-generous complimentary pantry. And just like that, we were headed home for more birthday surprises.